Good evening, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dressing. This is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. So what's up, Damian? Did you think I was talking to myself? Maybe, sometimes. What's going on?
It's warmer here now than it has been. It's up to 23 degrees and slippery rock.
It's a heat wave. We should all be wearing our bathing suits. I was at the pool today. That's where the reference comes from. So just a little while ago. Yes, and it's we're closing in on the end of January.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to see January depart because it's, this it's the decline after the high of the holiday season. And it's just kind of this cold part of that. But I know you don't feel that way. You're a cold lover, but.
Yeah, you're like cheering everybody up here. Anyway, we have a writer tonight.
We do, in fact, have a writer on the show, and I believe Val's been on with us before, and she's certainly been part of the work that we do, I think, since the beginning. So let's talk about who our writer is tonight. Valerie Nieman is the author of several novels, including Dead Hand and To the Bones. In The Lonely Backwater, a YA crossover thriller in the Southern Gothic tradition, won the Sir Walter Raleigh Award and was a finalist in the Foreword Reviews competition. Nieman's third poetry collection, Leopard Lady, A Life in Verse, debuted with a reading at the Coney Island Museum, which sounds really fun, and was a runner-up for the Brockman-Campbell Book Prize. She was a 2013-2014 North Carolina Arts Council Poetry Fellow and has received an NEA Creative Writing Fellowship, as well as major grants in West Virginia and Kentucky. She graduated from West Virginia University and Queen's University of Charlotte, a former professor and journalist. She now teaches creative writing at conferences and workshops. Let's bring her on.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
I was just thinking, it's been a while since I've seen you in person.
It has been.
Maybe at an ASA?
I think so.
Or somewhere? Yeah, I mean, all these worlds collide. At some point, we end up finding each other again, those of us who've been writing for a while. So what will you be reading from tonight?
Well, I'm really deep in prose right now, but I thought I'd take a little break and read some poems. I think that works better in this format. So, pardon me?
Oh, no, it's always great. We love poetry.
Okay. And I'm working on a fourth collection. I've got a big stack of poems, and you know how that is. How do I put them in order? So been thinking a lot about that fourth collection.
No, Valerie, when I have a big stack of poems, I think there's an empty trash can they're begging. That's what happens when I have a big stack of poems.
Damian's an occasional poet, writes one every once in a while, right?
I keep a few coming out. So I'm going to read ones that have some connection to West Virginia and Appalachia. And this first one, Nothing Gold, I wrote following the death of my friend Timothy Russell, who Christina, I think and Damian.
We do.
Yes, and miss Tim a great deal. Nothing Gold. Those pottery cups Peggy made, I've still got them, all except for one that my ex crashed to the floor in punishment. Ah, exes. You say this word or that, and right in the moment see the entire end of it. It would be a shame for daylilies to hang on when the joy is one bud opening as yesterday's fades. Tomatoes, after summer's banquet, don't even think of setting green ones to ripen into November. Enough. I watch morning sun reach farther down the hall as winter comes on. My friend, dying, hugged me close. I whispered, I love you. And he, but I love you more because I'm bigger. This poem actually comes from really northern Appalachia. I grew up in western New York State, So this is way up there. Family album. Aunt Denora at night down on her knees with a toothbrush scrubbing the corners of the kitchen, keeping the linoleum spotless, the counters polished to bone, sheets bleached till the thread melted. The 40 acres out back kept coming inside. Cow shit that kids brought in on bare feet, dirt on the carrots, the rust on the apple, smut on the corn, the dust off the hay. Plowed fields bannering the wind. She kept a set of ruby glass locked in the china cabinet. But when she took it out at Christmas, a film of filth had dulled the bowls and settled into the hobnail pattern. And all this time, her husband bringing home the mill, breathing atoms of metal that layered his lungs like threads of ore gleaming inside the mountain, till the weight broke him. 4 sons thrived in the muck and the dirt, going off to the labors of the poor, cutting and breaking and crushing the world into saleable shapes, logs and rolled metal. Oh, and there was a daughter, Anne, inheritor of the toothbrush and the wash rag, scratch of nails against burnt-on dinner. The doctors had no idea why her heart came apart at the seams. When I was writing in the Lonely Backwater, I spent a lot of time looking up material about Linnaeus, because my character has sort of a long-distance time-crossing crush on the Swedish botanist. So he stayed in my head. And this poem came from that. Bridal beds. There's an ass for every seat, a car salesman once said. Not a purple sedan nor a battered Econobox, even one with checkered seat covers, but it would find a buyer. In the garden, it's the same. No flower is too plain nor too intricate, too large or insignificant. For all, pollinators do the work. Flower flies and wasps, ants and beetles and butterflies by the dozen, 500 species of bees. Honeybees, of course, always working the hustle culture. Bumblebees come in many sizes and degrees of hairiness. Large ones, too heavy to hang on the blossom, perch above the 4 o'clock trumpets, cutting through the base of the blooms to steal the nectar. Linnaeus knew every garden was a brothel, flowers spreading their skirts with promises of sweetness and gold dust to be exchanged. He described the flowers as he saw them, a penis or 7, 1 vagina or 3, to categorize their type. He named the pea flower Clitoria, the devil's doorbell cloned in vegetable tissue. It was sex, all sex, what his critics decried as loathsome harlotry of the flower and the seed, except for grasses and conifers, tongued only by the lascivious wind. And I think I should be winding up. So this little one should, I think, take us out. Not ending it. Yarrow's roots go deep. No matter how much I discourage it, the plant comes back. Feathery fronds emerging through the bee balm, then heads of tiny flowers. Achillea, soldier's woundwort, sanguinary, a plant long used to stanch blood. If I had a wound that could be healed, then I'd keep this plant around, but contained in a pot, unable to creep. It's of no more use to me than the amaranth that came up this year, that I let grow week by week in hopes it was something other than a rank weed. I finally broke it over before seeds could finish forming. I may have been too late. Next year, I expect it might sprout among the yarrow, give me a brief shock, like an ex-lover met turning a corner of the street. Thank you. Is that enough? You need more?
No, those were great, Valerie. Those were great. I like that you reference Timothy Russell. We're both big fans of his work, and grateful to Larry Smith for putting out the collected works a few years back. I love the line. It's not in the poem that you mentioned, but bringing home the mill. As somebody who grew up in Pennsylvania's steel country, I love the way the idea of the atoms. That you're literally the physical act of actually. Bringing home the actual components of the mill. I thought that was terrific. Really like the imagery in that work a lot. Also, I have a deep interest in a deep hobbyist interest in entomology. So I was very pleased to hear the gardening poem. And if somebody were going to tell me that they were working with on a poem that involved Linnaeus, I would have never expected it to start with the line "an ass for every seat." But I love the line. I'm going to use that. I think it's one of my teaching.
He's not kidding.
Yeah, students standing around. There's an ass for every seat.
Or a seat for every ass, depending on the way you want to turn it.
Right. I really love those poems too. And I was thinking, as you were referencing Linnaeus and his, ways of describing it, made me think, and then the painting version is George O'Keeffe. This very how can you not see it once you've heard it described that way or seen it depicted that way? How can you not see those same beautiful patterns? And I love the way you describe the bumblebee, like the fat hairy ones, and how and they are the most interesting to me. I will spend a lot of time just admiring the roundness and the way that the little hairs stick out, and they fascinate me so much. It was beautiful.
I went looking, just thinking, how many species of bees are there? And in North Carolina alone, there are 500 species. And I was amazed. I was amazed and then I started looking really closer, because it's like, there's, and then you start looking, it's like, oh, that one's got a green head. That's a different one, and that one, and that one, and that one. So
that's fascinating, because growing up, you learn about the sweat bee, the honeybee, the bumblebee, the wasp, which isn't really a bee at all, but it's in that similar thing, I guess. But I would never guess that there were 500.
Just here. I mean, worldwide, I have no idea. But
a lot of bees out there.
There's a lot of bees. I like bees. I used to trap them in hollyhocks when I was a kid. Remember the big hollyhock blossoms?
Oh, yeah.
You could kind of put that into a jar and get the bee. Why I wanted to do that, I don't know. But that's what kids do.
Oh, yeah. We used to trap lightning bugs, At night, we'd go catch them and put little holes in the top of the jar and then run around. Mm-hmm. Why my mom let me run around with a glass jar in the night, I don't know, but I'm alive, I guess. But then you'd have a little lantern with these lightning bugs in it, and then later you realize how horrifying that is. Why would we do that? Why?
Well, we'd forget them, and then the next day they'd all be,
Yeah, or one of the things that we did, and I quit doing it because I felt so guilty, we would take their glowy parts off and wear them as jewelry.
Oh.
Yeah, horrifying. And I've talked to other girls, that are women now, and I said, "Did you do this?" Oh, yeah, we'd have whole bracelets, and I'm like, why would we do such an awful thing to these animals? But
yeah, you say that though, but they're actually bioluminescent insects that ape the patterns and the light and use it as a way to attract prey. So you're just maybe you're kind of following along the same trying to attract some prey.
I saved some life maybe by I don't know. I I don't know, but I have read about that too, about this other the patterns of the fireflies indicate it's like a message almost, or provide some kind of attraction. That's fascinating. And the other, what is it? Last summer, people were talking about the shortage of fireflies, and yet there were abundant here in my backyard. I mean, I could look out the window and see them every night, or sit on the deck.
They
and
clearly hadn't heard about you.
Yeah, no, that was the best kept secret around here.
Well, I think it's a combination of the fact that people spray everything all the time because they're afraid of everything, and then they clean up their lawns. And if you don't have any leaves or anything like that, there's no place for insects to overwinter.
See, I keep telling people this. I do not rake my lawn. I get it mowed, or I mow it myself, but it doesn't get, like, there's no manicuring, there's no like insecticides or pesticides or anything. And I've got like trees that have fallen that provide like a place for insects. And people are like, well, you need to clean that up. And I'm like, no, there's like scientific studies that show this is good. This is a healthy thing. I wish we could abolish lawns altogether. If we could get rid of those, I would be so happy. Why not grow flower gardens or vegetable gardens or something?
Well, Richard Brodigan warned us they'll seek revenge.
The gnomes?
No, the lawn.
Oh, I don't remember that. What is that in?
This book, Revenge of the Lawn.
That's what it's called? Did you know this, Valerie?
I know there's an X-Files thing where there's like a perfect manicured suburb, and they get attacked by this creature that's all of the stuff they've thrown away that's turned into a creature and comes back.
Oh my!
Well, I didn't watch that. So, what's next for you, Valerie? What are you working on? I know you've always got projects going on. So, what's up?
Well, my big project, and so you got to say it. This is my next book.
Yes.
Very cool. Now, when does this come out, Valerie?
March 11th. And I'm very excited because I've been working for 30 years. I know that sounds ridiculous. People say, I wrote a book in a month. And I'm like, oh, good for you. It takes me a lot longer. So this is the first of 2 books about the historical Macbeths, who were nothing like the Shakespearean characters in any way other than his name. And I've become fascinated with that and just have done lots of research, gone to Scotland twice and tromped around all over the place looking at ruins because it's
very cool.
11th century. It's a long time ago.
Where in Scotland are the historical Macbeths? Where are they from?
Well, Macbeth was from, his father was the Mormaer of Moray, the northeastern quadrant. And they had lands down into the area around the River Dee. So that whole sort of northeast quadrant is where he was from. And he was the king of that region, the king of the north, before he became king of all Scotland. And it's just been fascinating because the whole problem was over how do you pick the king? And in this days, while we talk about succession and who gets to be the leader and how do you do that, I think it's fascinating that was what the whole beef was. Duncan was his cousin, only a very few years older, raised with him. And the kings were chosen by the basis of election in ancient Celtic societies. He was elected, became king, was not very good at it, kept losing battles. That was a bad thing then. And so he decided, I know, I'll go beat up my cousin. And so he took his army up to Moray, decided to beat up Macbeth. Very bad idea. So he was killed in battle. He wasn't an old man killed in his bed. He was a not very good young king who took one step too many. And then Macbeth became king and was king for 17 years. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Shakespeare took some liberties with the Macbeths.
Well, the people where he drew his stories from, they had taken the liberties because there was a lot of revising of history to make certain people better and certain people worse, like they do.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So
he was
history,
right?
He went in the Chronicles and that's what he found. And then he made the best play I mean, Macbeth has always been my favorite.
It's my favorite of all the Shakespearean plays, for sure.
Yep.
I mean, it's got witches, it's got trees moving up the hill, it's got, all the things, all the good things. Out damn spot. I mean, where else can you get that kind of drama? I mean, literally. I love that play. And that's cool that you did that research. Were people, when you went to Scotland and started investigating this, was it difficult research to sort of uncover this true story?
Well, it's just so long ago, and a lot of people there do know it. People in this country don't, for the most part. But it was fascinating, even though there wasn't a lot left from that long ago, to just go to these areas and see what it looks like. There still is a remnant of the Burnham Wood. And there's an old oak that's all propped up on crutches. And they say it probably wasn't here in the time of Macbeth, but pretty close. It might be 900 years old. And it's just immense. I went up to Orkney because part of the action takes place there, and that was phenomenal. The standing stones and the rings and Skara Brae and all of that.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And I walked the Great Glen, and that was phenomenal. Just, being able to see the land and get to know the land. And I think that's important. I wrote an essay for Appalachian Journal that will be out in a couple of months about how in Appalachia and the South, we're often said that we are really tied to the land and that we write out of the land. I think that's true. But Scotland and Appalachia were once one thing.
Oh, yes.
The geology underneath before it parted. And so I wrote a lot about the connections and, of course, people and language and folk songs and food and all those things. So I felt quite at home in Scotland. I really, really loved the land and the people. And
I've heard that a lot from Appalachians who visited there because of that connection where we were one land at one point, and how people feel like they're home there because it's this extension of Appalachia. So that's really cool. What a journey that must be. And there's nothing that can substitute when you're writing about something, being there, holding it, walking on it, being, physically in that place. There's nothing that can compare to that.
Yeah, being able to see what birds are doing what and what the beach looks like here and all of those things. I just took immense numbers of photos and wrote things down. And I did a lot more research in the libraries and museums and all, but it's not the same as being out there tramping around in the rain.
Cool. And this comes out in March, so we will keep an eye out for it.
And I hope to get up to Wheeling, Pittsburgh, Morgantown sometime during the book tour. So
yeah, definitely come see us. And the Ohio County Public Library here in Wheeling, our library, you've read there, right? Yeah. Is one of the great places for writers to have an opportunity to read for a great audience. So maybe you can come back up and see us that way. And there's lots of other places. So it'd be nice to see you.
It's on my list. So
all right. Well, thank you so much for making time to be on the show tonight. We really appreciate it.
All right. This was great.
Next week. Yeah, it was nice seeing you. We will see everybody next week for a new writer. Good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot, y'all. Have a good night.